This is our Monday, October 11th, 2021 market review. So we're looking at the dollar index, daily chart. As I mentioned on Friday's weekend commentary, we've seen it trade down into during non-farm payroll, closing this volume imbalance, and it just approached the mean threshold of the body of that candle. Now, if you look at it from the fib, measuring the open down to the close, you're going to find that this low comes in within, I think, 3 pipettes of the actual midpoint or mean threshold of the body. It's fine. It's more specifically aimed at the volume imbalance, but it went down, closing the volume imbalance, and I mentioned that nothing has changed on Friday's weekend commentary, that we're still looking for a run above the buy side here, and eventually trying to make an attempt to get above here. Today's showing on dollar was constructive. We had it open and we traded back down into the order block here, and then we saw some sponsorship behind that move. That's critical. So we want to see, obviously, a continuation into that tomorrow. Hourly chart, dollar index. I mentioned this was your bullish breaker. Extended out in time. We've accumulated inside that bullish breaker. We rallied above these short-term highs, came back down into the order block here with a fair value gap. Michael, what makes a bullish order block high probability? Well, you have to have a down closed candle in an area that would otherwise be expected bullish. Displacement, the market wants to go higher, creates this nice little fair value gap. The market trades back down into that down closed candle in the body, extended out in time, fills the fair value gap, optimal trade entry, and a reason to want to go higher. We have buy side here, we have buy side here, low resistance liquidity run signature, low resistance liquidity run signature here. A little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Buy side above here. So nice optimal trade entry, bullish bias I was given with a bullish bias, which I gave you for the Friday weekend commentary last week, and then we've seen some upside movement. Now, it's not a lot of movement here. I'm not trying to make a big deal about that, but it does offer up clarity for foreign currencies going lower today. 15-minute time frame. Okay, you can see the 15-minute time frame Judas swing dropping right down into taking out sell side liquidity here. Bullish breaker relative to the hourly chart. Rallies above. Trades back down into the hourly optimal trade entry, bullish order block, closing its fair value gap, and then rallies away from here, taking out buy side here and here, and just keep your focus up here. That's where I'm aiming for. Moving on into euro dollar daily chart. I mentioned again, we closed in the fair value gap here, bearish order block, extended out in time from this candle's opening. We traded up into that. So we're looking for continuation down into the 115 big figure and under 115 big figure. Consequent encroachment, and best case scenario down here, 114.67, 8, something like that. All right, the hourly chart on euro dollar, just consolidating, but with a bias that's lower, bearish. Okay, sell side liquidity pool here, runs the rejection block on the initial rally up here, that, and then sells off, attacking the sell side. We have sell side below here and over here, just a mirror image of what I outlined on the dollar index. Bearish order block here, you can extend that out in time, fills in fair value gap there. Bearish order block, fair value gap, optimal trade entry, sell side. So aim down here for your studies. 15-minute time frame. You can see the bearish order block here, highest up close candle during today. Mean threshold hits it there. Bodies are respecting the order block. Fair value gap. Sells off. Comes back up into this sell side imbalance. Rallies up into that. Almost got to institutional order flow entry drill. Didn't quite deliver there. Sells off, attacks this short-term sell side liquidity pool, and eventually small little fair value gap here, from here down to there. Nice little 10 pip drop into sell side liquidity there. So this right here is a really nice little bread and butter late New York session scalp. All right, pound dollar daily chart. I mentioned I'd rather see this trade in consolidation, and we've seen it trade up into this bearish order block. You can use the mean threshold of this one, extend it out in time. You still get the same level. But we came back up and filled all this in, which I didn't really want to see that, but you know, what I want, what the market's going to do is two different things. So the market traded up, created a short-term premium, took out any buy side here, and came off the highs pretty impressively intraday. On the hourly chart, the fair value gap I've been drawing your attention to for the last few days or so. Went just above it here, broke down. Look at the bodies respecting that old discount low. Cutting through candles. Sorry, Sam. And then displacement to the downside. Lots of sell side liquidity resting below here. Now we have this low and this low with liquidity remaining there as well with low resistance liquidity run signatures here. In the 15-minute time frame for pound dollar, you can see again the rally up initially. This is your Judas swing. It breaks down, finds resistance at the discount low of the hourly imbalance. Breaks lower. Notice this low does not engage any of the sell side liquidity over here. Comes all the way back up, rebalances here, and trades back up into what premium array? The old hourly imbalance discount low. Almost gets to consequent encroachment between the premium high and the discount low of that hourly imbalance. Again, that hourly imbalance being this over here. Okay, so we're looking at this price action here on the hourly, but we're going to zoom in on this little area right there on the 15-minute time frame. That's this right there. Okay, so that's the fractal perspective of price action. The market trades up in here and then rejects that fair value gap. Boom. Consequent encroachment leaves a small little portion there. That's what we want to see. We want to see that small little piece of price action left open. That will be a breakaway gap. Market breaks lower. We have a bearish breaker here. Extended out in time. Doesn't really quite get to it there, but it does give you institutional order flow entry drill. Okay, so in your notes, if you have a imbalance here with the breaker, breaker is ideal, but it may not give you ideal. Your platform, your broker, it may not offer that price. So if you do get something like this, institutional order flow entry drill, take a small portion of your trade idea and enter on that. And then the second half of the trade, if you can get the breaker, then obviously use that to get in on the second portion. So in other words, let's say you were trying to trade a full standard lot and you wanted 10 pips per pip movement in your favor or risk. You could trade 50,000 leveraged on the institutional order flow entry drill here, and then if it can give you the limit entry on the breaker, then the final 50,000 leverage, which would be $5 per pip, assuming we're looking at pound dollar here. In this event here, we wouldn't see it actually filled, and you'd only have $5 per pip on the ride lower. But you have to consider the likelihood of your limit orders not being filled. So if it gives you close proximity arrays where this entry for institutional order flow entry drill here, if you're selling short here or looking at that saying, no, I don't want that, I'm going to only take it if it trades back to the breaker, you're going to be frustrated. So if it's close to one another like this, just take the institutional order flow entry drill or whatever, if it was a smaller time frame bearish order block in here, then I would use that and disallow for as much as the breaker and then the mean threshold being traded up into, which would also close in any gap here too. And that's all factored in when you take on risk. Like, where do you put your stop? You have to weigh those types of things out. And I do a lot of that discussion in the teachings, not just in one commentary here. In other words, I'm not trying to get everything out in one discussion because it's too much. It's too dense. And I don't have enough bandwidth in these individual commentaries to give everything that's required. And all of the numerous circumstances, conditions, the circumstances around your given market structure, it's going to vary from day to day, month to month, time frame, asset class. So you have to use sound judgment, but you're trying to get in a trade. So you're not forcing a trade, but you're trying to get something on. So if you're getting something like this, where you have ideal bearish breaker here, there's nothing wrong with trying to take that low, extending out in time, which would have never been hit, and using that as your entry and just missing it. And you can get frustrated about that, or say, you know what, I was on side with my analysis, but the idea of actually getting in on one position entry when you have the luxury of using institutional order flow entry here on that candle, that's, in my opinion, that's how you measure the metal in the trader. Okay, in other words, the experience. The neophyte or the unlearned student here, they're going to demand the best entry, and that's all they're going to have. They're either going to eat from the finest china on a 14-karat gold spoon and fork, or they're going to starve. Well, you can only do that so often before you get so frustrated, either start taking dumb trades, or you get frustrated because you can't sit long enough. Either one is problematic because you don't have the experience behind you to trust the fact that these setups will come to you, but you have to know what you're looking for. So I'm just tossing that out there as a additional lecture point today. When you have very close proximity entries, just use the lower and just allow for what would be the stop on your breaker. If you had a entry on the breaker, where would your stop loss be? It has to be above here. Last up close candle. So, or in this case, it could be the mean threshold of that, because that would also allow for closing in of this imbalance, and mean threshold would be here. So basically 130. Let's call it 136.30. There you go. Makes it nice and easy. Oh, but Michael, I don't want to use more than 10 pips for a stop. Well, you need to get real. Okay, because sometimes you're going to have trades that require that. You can't trade with 2 pip stop losses all the time. Okay, and I don't believe it's possible to do it consistently. So I know that gets under some of my students' skin, because they can do it in their demo account. But listen, you put your money on hard stops like that, and your broker will absolutely gun you out. Okay, they might give it to you once in a while, but they're going to take you. Okay, and if you put any size on your positions, now when I'm saying, like, if you're in there doing like, I don't know, maybe like $2.50 per pip, or $5 per pip, or maybe even $10 per pip. Let's be real. Anything less than $20 to $30 per pip, you might get away with it. As soon as you cross, $50 per pip or higher, then it's more interesting for them to open the stops and take you. But you're going to have people in here, and outside the mentorship too. Oh, the broker doesn't really want to do that to you, because they want to be able to make commissions off of you and keep you as a long-term partner. Absolutely not. They don't want that. Because they know that the numbers tell them, just like it tells us, and if we're paying attention, most people don't have longevity in this business. So they want to take your account. If they can do it in 1 or 2 trades and blow you out, that's what they want, because they're paid. They're going to be way more doing it that way in a shorter amount of time than hoping you stay here for a long time and getting spread, entries on all your trades as a means of commission. Forget about it. These people don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, I could really go on a rant about that, but I'm not going to do it. All right, so that's your discussion point for choosing a breaker or a institutional order flow entry drill. The way you determine that is if the entries are in close proximity. Like, we're not talking about a lot of pips there, folks. That's very, very small. So just use the lower, okay, and just try to get in on something. And you might just say, you know what? I'm not splitting my position. I'm just going to go in on the institutional order flow entry drill. And some of you in here that are very highly critical, especially the new folks that came in that don't have enough experience sitting down with me and seeing it pan out before it actually happens, but I outline certain things like this. That experience comes by being here under my wing for years, not just, I went through your videos. I watched all your videos, and that's like watching any Netflix series. Okay. If you binge watch, for instance, the old show, Breaking Bad. Okay. I didn't want to watch it when it first came out because it was about drugs, and I'm just really not interested in it. I had my fill of it with Scarface, and, it just didn't, it's not my preferred genre. But my oldest son, he was like, Dad, you gotta watch it. So I gave the first episode a chance. Now, I remember watching the first day it debuted on, I think it was USA, if I'm not mistaken, on River Cable. But long story short, I just couldn't get into it. The guy standing in his underwear, I just couldn't do it. And I like Bryan Cranston, but the idea is that whole drug thing, I just wasn't into it. But my son just begged and begged and begged, going, Dad, just give it 3 episodes. Just give it 3 episodes. If you don't like it, then I'll be done. So I did. I sat down and ended up watching basically the whole series inside of a week. And now, I do have my favorite parts in that series, but I cannot tell you the timeline of certain things. I can't tell you the storyline. As much as I enjoyed the show and the series, I don't have recall of the majority of that show. So that same phenomenon is occurring with you as my students, because you think by watching the next video that you can get your hands on real quick, and you're going to have that epiphany because you went through it faster, and you think that your super sponge mentality isn't going to be hindered, and it is. That's why you have to cycle through this multiple times. It's like, like a cow chewing. They chew and chew and chew and chew and chew, when they could literally just take the grass and swallow it down, but they just chew and chew and chew on it because they want to get every bit of the nutrients out of it. So if you look at and that may not be a true scientific statement there, I'm not a farmer. I'm just tossing that out there as a disclaimer. Please, if you raise cattle and cows, you know why they chew longer than that. I'm not asking to be corrected. It's probably a poor choice of analogy, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. You have to go through it back, over multiple times. And knowing the details of these things comes by way of repetition. You'll also realize how much you have forgotten. Maybe not intentionally, and maybe it was some things that you felt, that's really noteworthy, but you didn't really journal that. Didn't really say, oh yeah, I'm going to try to use this idea in a trading model. Not to force it, but if you really learn something in the core content, in the supportive lessons I'll do in the commentary, which is really where the heart of the teachings are, the repetition of going back through them, you're going to find that there's more visibility. And that's the benefit of having these videos remotely downloaded. And I mentioned earlier in the year that you should be downloading all of the videos. Okay, because when we get into March of next year, I want to only have the present 30 days. Okay, now I won't have it off the server by then, but for the month of November, I kind of want to set a goal for all of you to download all of month 1 content and all of the supportive commentaries. So it doesn't take long to do this, folks. I know it seems like, oh, I don't want to do this. I had one guy send me an email. He says, listen, I paid for this, and I'm not going to download all these videos. I don't want to do that. Well, I don't want to pay the amount of money I'm paying for the server because I'm not offering mentorship anymore. So there's no more cash flow coming in to pay for the resources that are required for you all to have Netflix ICT version when it's not necessary. The idea is you should be downloading them. That way your children and your family tree have access to it, okay? Anything can happen, folks. The internet could go down. As much as you all like to think that some of the things I talk about are too science fiction. It'll never happen in a million years. Expect the internet to go down. Okay, expect it. Okay, it's just, why leave it up to chance that even my own server company may not have an issue and go down and may not come back up? What says that that is impossible? Nothing says that's not possible. It's probably very likely, okay? Not just my website, but many websites. Large server companies, they can go under a serious attack. What happens if they go into like some ransomware stuff? Anything can happen. So being lazy, and if that offends you, too bad, okay, because I've warned you in the beginning to download these videos. That way you have a library of them. I would have never joined a service like this and not have downloaded them into my own solid state hard drive that's external, away from my own computer. And that way I have this information, because I've had people come through, they pay up to month whatever, and they stop paying. They say, I'm not going to pay anymore. I think I've learned enough. Okay, great. I don't understand why you would do that, but okay, whatever. But then they email me 60, 90 days later. Hey, I was wondering, can I have access to the videos I paid for? No. And that's what I said in the beginning, before any of you joined. It's in the agreement too. If you don't keep up with your payments, you don't have access. You're paying for streaming access. But because you are here and you're my students, I'm giving you the instructions to download them. That way you have them. Why? Because things got way different since I first started this mentorship. The way the world's operating right now, I want to make sure that you have what you've invested in. Okay? That way, no matter what, whether if I get ill and pass away, or something happens with my servers, or the company has an attack and then I can't get access to any of it, I have a backup. But what happens if everything goes down and you can't email me and you can't contact me? That's going to be alarming, because you paid for something, right? And at least you could sit home in your remote terminals and watch this stuff without needing the internet. That's what I stated you should all be doing. Some of you just don't want to do that because, I got other things to do. I got plenty of time to do that. So I'm going to try to spur you along, okay, and make November, in a couple weeks, you want to have at least month 1 content downloaded, because I want to remove month 1 from the forum, and I want to take that information off my server, and I want to reduce the usage and storage capacity requirements on me running this service, because I'm not opening up mentorship anymore, and it's extremely expensive. And I'm not asking you to send me more money. I'm telling you to download something that you paid access to. So it shouldn't be anything to get anybody upset about. And it's not that many videos. Okay, it's literally, average 20 commentaries for each month. So there's 20, and there's 8 lessons. That's 28 videos. You literally could be watching television with your laptop, okay? Watching a television program, say an average of an hour show, okay? And right-click on each one of the links, save target as, and then put it in a directory that's titled ICT Month 1 Core Content. And then all the videos get downloaded there. And you could comfortably do that without even really paying attention, and have all the videos downloaded and watching a TV show. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If I would have been in this mentorship by somebody else, I would have literally downloaded everything before I watched any of them. In other words, if I had access to month 1 when I first started up, I would have right-clicked Save Target As and made sure I had the video downloaded on every single one of them. Then I would go in and watch them from my own copy to make sure I have a sound, solid copy. There it is. That's how I would do it. Because I want to make sure, if I made the investment like you are making the investment, then you should be doing this. And this isn't something, like I told all of the students coming in, you should download them. You should download them. It does not give you ownership of the videos. It doesn't give you a right to go out and publish them on Telegram and YouTube and Discord and all the other things that's available on Facebook. That's not, you don't have that right, okay? But you should be downloading them for your private library, so your children, your spouse, they have the benefit of this information. I personally believe that we will see an interruption in online communication. I have joined several Telegram channels that have themes that are a little bit off center because they share similar ideas that I have. Now, you may see me as a conspiracy theorist. Some of you may see me as lunatic fringe on some instances and some topics. That's fine. But some of the Telegram channels that have shared things like with voter fraud evidence, and I know some of you don't like to hear that because you love Biden and you love whoever's elected, and some of you love Trump. Listen, I'm Switzerland here, okay? I don't have a love for either one of them, and I want to be able to speak and not have the judgment or requirement to defend myself, okay? You obviously know why I feel the way I feel, and I don't think I need to beat that up anymore. But long story short, the Telegram channels that I was frequenting were experiencing, and I'm sorry if you hear my stomach, I had dinner before I came down here and started recording. The Telegram channels, people were sharing information, but then Google was blocking it, saying this message could not be displayed through the Google Telegram app. I was like, whoa. Like, I just mentioned this stuff. I just started talking about this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go into Telegram and download it from their website for Android. So I have several phones, and some of them are not really equipped to be telephones, but I use them for like surfing, and I don't keep anything that's sensitive, any kind of personal information like that. But one of them I keep just for like Telegram, and like I use it to watch YouTube videos, and I don't want to be tracked, basically. So I use it for those purposes. And if something ever happens or whatever, I could chuck it in the in the boat and lose it, one day while fishing. So I went and downloaded the app right from Telegram's website for Android, and all of a sudden, all the messages were visible. At some point, that's still not going to be enough, because your ISP provider, if properly motivated through the management of payments, okay, through these entities that want these things blocked, everybody's ability to have free speech, free communication back and forth. I mean, these messages were not saying anything like incendiary, where it would cause the people to go outside and cause bodily harm to anybody else. This is information that everybody should have, okay? And most Democrats that are walking around drinking the Kool-Aid saying, "Oh yeah, there was never any fraud in this election, and these people are stupid Trumpers." I'm not a Trumper, okay? I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a Biden supporter. I'm not an Obama supporter, okay? And my belief is the last president we had was Reagan. And I don't care if you agree with that. I don't care if you like it or dislike it. That's what I believe. And those ideas permeate throughout every decision, everything I think about when it comes to monetary policy, everything that has to do with macro perspective on the marketplace. Like, it weighs heavily on how I see things. And for you to come in here, if it doesn't agree with your political stance or slant, and say, well, that's not gonna, I don't want to hear about that. Okay, that's fine. But you're getting a lower resolution in the scope of what it is I'm trying to present. I'm not trying to indoctrinate any of you, because I'm indifferent to all of it. It all needs to go away. It needs to be rebuilt on a smaller level. We need a government that's smaller. But these messages were being blocked. And I was thinking to myself, wow, like, this is ridiculous. Like, you guys, this is like just like crypto. Yeah, crypto's deregulated. They're not going to be able to manipulate anything. We're taking it by force. Well, they created a futures contract, and everything changed. the idea that 30 countries are going to come together to try to put away Bitcoin. Okay, listen. As much as you guys that really love crypto, believe me when I tell you, if they want it gone, it will be gone. Oh, no, they can't stop it. Absolutely, they can. They can make it unlawful for it to be used in any business transaction. Boom. Trade that. What's the purpose of having it then? They could freeze your bank accounts, freeze assets. You don't think about this in its entirety. You just come in there as a supporter of it and thinking, yeah, this is great. Because the idea, while I agree is commendable, it's wonderful, but it's doomed to fail. Because the people that have their hands in everything own everything. And if they make them, just like you see them doing right now, there is no mandate by Joe Biden right now. Okay? Find it written somewhere. Because every executive order has to be filed in Federal Registry, and it's not. It's not there. You're being lied to. And business are going along with it. So what happens when the governments of the world say, you are not allowed to take cryptocurrencies for payment? Are they going to let you use your cryptocurrencies? No. So where's the benefit of having it? Right. So just like you all that support this asset class, and I'm not trying to vilify it, I'm just telling you the reality that there's such an opposition to it overtaking their game. They won't let it happen. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news just to be an instigator. Like on Twitter, I love doing those types of things. You all are here to learn and understand where my perspective is, where it comes from, what's the root inspiration behind it all. Y'all ask, who was the people? Who were the folks, and where did they come from? What are they a part of? Look around. That's who they are. That's what they want to do. That's what they want everybody to be subjugated to and enslaved. And there's too many of us right now. And they don't want this many people. And that might not be what you want to hear. You may not even believe it. You know what? Hey, I'm not twisting your arm. But none of this is meant for your good health. It's not. And the more they twist this stuff up about crypto being the escape from fiat, okay? Just like that idea of we have a way of getting away from the man, the government, the this and the that, okay? Just like that perspective of thinking that you can't be touched and they can't do anything to you. Telegram users were thinking the same way. Ha ha ha. Yeah, look at you guys on Twitter. They put a comment out saying, look, we don't mind. We actually love all of you coming from Twitter over here, but all at one time is a little too much. Just, trolling Twitter. And, well, what did big tech come back with? Okay, well, we'll just shut this whole show down and nobody can use it through their cell phone. And I know some of you are saying, well, you can just go to the website. Right. For now. These people own everything. Everything, folks. Every sub-company that's underneath parent companies, they own all of them. Unless it's a mom and pop shop. And guess what? Now you know why all the mom and pop organizations and companies have been strangled over the last year and a half. Because that last line of, well, we can get it from our local Tom's Bar and Grill down the street. No, they're removing that. So communication could very well be the next attack because they're already stifling supply chain. That's the first thing you see in war, rationing of resources and supplies. And look out there. There's a whole lot of cargo ships just sitting there. The question I want to know is, who the hell keeps sending those ships knowing that they're not getting unloaded? And what's really in them? I don't think it's all basketballs and hula hoops. There could be other things in there. I don't know. I'm not implying I even know what might it be, if not these types of things. People's goods and such, and furniture. I'm sure lots of it has to do with furniture, because I have friends and family that have ordered couches and chairs, and they've been waiting 8 months and still ain't got it. So the next line in war is cut communications. And there's a lot of information about that Arizona audit. And I've watched a lot of really good evidence, okay, that, and I am a computer programmer. I know information systems, and the guy broke it down perfectly clear, and you can actually see how the code, the lines of code that were put in after the fact, and the syntax behind everything, the logic, and how the information was taking one form of data, flipping it to Biden. So a vote would come in, be counted initially as Trump, but then the line in code would change it to Biden. And I know some of you just don't want to hear stuff like that. I'm not here supporting Trump. I'm not here to do that. What I'm telling you is the real story is they wanted to divide everybody. That's why Trump was even allowed to be a president. You want to divide the country? Put somebody in there that's a cowboy. There you go. That's why I said I want to see what happens when you put him in there. Because if I am right, which is I'm right, look at what happened from 2016. Before I even started the mentorship, I said this stuff is going to turn into some kind of circus. Boom. There you go. He's a fall guy. Not because I love him. Not because I support him. I loved the whole idea of the left going crazy that he was in office. I loved it. It was entertaining. And the economy was going in the right direction. I don't have a problem with that. But here's what happened. Just suspend your political persuasion for a moment. Okay? Whether you're a Trump supporter, whether you're a hardline Democrat and you wanted Hillary to win and you wanted, whoever else, in the past to win, that's irrelevant for right now. Just for this talking point, just listen to me. They wanted to put somebody in office to really showcase who is going to be the defectors and let them put a spotlight on themselves. So what do you got? You got a guy out here saying, here you go, wear this red cap. You can't miss red. You ever hear the expression in the U.S.? Don't buy a red sports car because the cops can see it real easy. Well, red is alarming. Your eye goes right to it. So here's his red hat. Make America great again. What's that statement mean? Everything that's going on right now is against their personal belief. Okay. So now everybody running around wearing these hats and bumper stickers and signs on their yards are putting bullseyes on. I've said this from the beginning. Don't do those types of things because you stand out. You want to be a gray man. Nobody can look at me in my homes. If they go and fly over my house and look down, they're not going to see any kind of political signs or affiliations, nothing. I've never voted. Never done those things because I know that the elections are manipulated. Period. You all just see the evidence of it. Now, some of you don't want to see the evidence, but the evidence is clear. It's absolutely clear. The people that I turn away from have infiltrated all levels of government, all levels of court and judge and lawmaking, every aspect of governance. They're infiltrated every part of it now. They use the celebrities to get people to, I love Tim McGraw. His songs are awesome. Okay, it may not be a good analogy for most of you. When I was coming up, I liked Run DMC. And DMC, one of the members of that rap group, put out a little song, Get Vaccinated. Take the vaccine, take your shot. And it's like, what the hell is going on? It's like they're doing everything they possibly can to make people want to take this stuff. So they already knew who was going to be in opposition to them because of Trump. So they used Trump to divide the nation for the purposes of identifying who is who and what are we really dealing with. What's the amount of defectors in our country that aren't going to go along with the status quo? They're not going to follow along to the beat that we're drumming. Okay? So isn't it odd that this whole idea of this vaccination program was permitted during Trump? We're going to come out with vaccines. I was saying hell to the no. I was not taking no vaccine. And I was saying, look, there's no way. Like, you got to have 10 years. And I don't like animal cruelty and studies on animals, but that's the usual, protocol. They go through lots of animal testing. And these tests on these shots, I'm not calling it medicine because they shouldn't even call them vaccines because they're not. These injections had horrible clinical trials. You don't see this because the media hides it. But there are ways that people have been making this available to other people and they've been sharing it around. And a lot of it has to do with, quieting and censoring it. So that's why you don't see it on the media. And you'll never allow to see it on YouTube because once their algorithm sees that, it's down. And they don't even play around. Like those types of things, you lose your channel. It ain't like, oh, you're doing something that's taboo in our community guidelines, so we're going to take your video down. They take the whole channel down now. They ain't playing. So you have the Trumpers with their red hats, their t-shirts, MAGA, Make America Great Again. That's a message anybody can get behind. Right. As an American, yes, I agree. Let's make it better. But I'm not running around wearing hats and putting bumper stickers on my cars. I've never put a bumper sticker on any of my cars. And I'm not putting signs on my lawn. I'm not drawing a bullseye on myself. Okay? So they allowed the idea of vaccinations to come out during his campaign, his administration, his presidency. All that is under his. And they try to say, oh, we're not going to take this vaccine if it was created during Trump. If it's Trump's vaccine, because Biden's on tape, Harris is on tape saying, yeah, I would take it, but I do not trust it if it's coming out under a Trump administration. But then they stole the election, whether you like it or not, they did. Okay. And there's so much data to support that. And that's what's being shown. And Google and all the big techs, Facebook, all of them, none of them want this to come out because it's hard evidence. And they need more people to get this shot in them. And they're trying to keep all these things going on, all these distractions going on. So that way you're not thinking about what they just did last November. And the longer this goes, and the more things they keep throwing on the plate in front of you, the less interest you're going to have. Because eventually it's going to be, well, nothing's ever going to happen. Let me just be distracted with something else. The Netflix syndrome. Give me something else to occupy my mind. So why does Trump have the role of dividing? Because it builds your hopes up. We're going the right direction. We were, as an economy, our economy was strong. We were doing everything right. And then a vaccine comes out. Take the vaccine. Take the vaccine. We're going to have amazing vaccines. Fantastic vaccines. Never in a million years you'd ever seen a vaccine so effective. Trump does not get back in office again, which was all part of the plan. And now you have a Biden administration, a goofball that has absolutely no ability to speak, has no idea where he's at, and missing in action Harris. Nobody knows where the hell she's at. She's not doing anything in the border. People are coming in like crazy. They're filling up the country, destabilizing the nation, and specifically Texas. They're punishing Texas. They're bringing in all these illegals, and they're attacking the American civilian. You better get this vaccine. Meanwhile, letting all these people come from other nations, bringing in who knows what. Going after companies. You got to do this. You got to take a shot or you can't earn a living. And they're trying to sway the minds of everyone else so that way they further divide us as a nation. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Listen, folks, if I would have went to a doctor last week, they would have told me I had COVID. I'm well. There ain't nothing wrong. 3 days. Gone. Done and dusted. I'm not taking a friggin' vaccination. Okay, I'm not doing it. And I'm not going to listen to these yahoos out there that are corrupt. When their own words said, I wouldn't trust a vaccination if it came through Trump. What vaccinations are they pumping out right now? The vaccinations that was created during Trump's administration, right? Because no new ones were created during Biden. No. These things were made years ago. This is all planned. So now back to Trump. You got this guy. He's divided the nation. You know who is not going to follow along. And you give them this whole idea that, look, we know you're the ones that would do something about this if a illegitimate administration was to rise up. So to keep you from forming militias and doing what the Constitution says we should be doing, we're going to give you a lullaby story. And it's going to be a superhero named Q. Trust the plan. All these people are going to get locked up. All this crime is going to go away. And John F. Kennedy Jr. is a zombie. He's going to come back from the dead. Yep. You got all this from somebody with no face, no name, just a letter. And they worked everybody up into a frenzy, just like people get when they watch WWE wrestling, football games. They lose their mind because somebody took a inflated bag of skin and crossed the line. It's madness. And they know that there's so many of those individuals out there that get so emotionally and psychologically committed. This is why I tell you, as my students and folks out there on YouTube, stop worshiping people like me and others that may have a skill set. I don't believe those majority of those over there on YouTube can trade, but they elevate me up to a level where it creates team mentality. And none of you should be ICT team anything. This is all about you. But they created this division where your hopes were really high up. And then when they kick the legs out from underneath it, that's where the stage of demoralization comes in. That's what the Nazis did. They give you a little bit of hope, and they steal it from you. And they hit you with wave after wave of restrictions and bad news and just no escape. And this is the way it's going to be. And then if you give up in your head and your mind, if you defeat yourself in your mind, it's over. And that's what's happening right now. They know the majority of the people that are saying, I'm not going to take this shot. I'm going to quit my job as a police officer. They want that. That makes it easier. It justifies them bringing in UN soldiers. because they don't have a constitution to follow. And the president that you had as an Obama, he gave the UN permission. Look into that, and you'll find that's the truth. Think about it, folks. Everything is marching lockstep to their plan. You think that our elections are fair. See, it's funny. The folks that were against Trump winning in 2016 said there's no way this was Russia collusion. They cheated to get him in office. But they have so much data and evidence to prove that the Biden administration is illegitimate. But the same people that you want to know so badly about are the ones that's doing everything in every country right now. I don't want to be like that. You wouldn't either. I pick my topics and words as carefully as I possibly can. But sometimes you have to say things to really be understood. And that's why sometimes I take the gloves off and I just come at you and say, look, you put your hopes in people, in government positions where they're trying to get rich. They're not trying to make your country better. They're put in a position of opportunity. Their opportunity, not yours. When's the last time in the last 25 years anybody that ran a campaign did everything they said they were going to do? How often did they change their opinion about things as soon as they got into office? Right. So you're seeing a great deal of opposition and keeping the truth hidden. Why? Because they have an agenda. They want the population to be reduced. And how do you do that? Clean and neat and tidy without bombs dropping. Nuclear bombs are devastating, folks. You can't enjoy the earth if you want to just exterminate everybody with nuclear bombs. Yeah, that's possible. But you poison it for yourself. So they don't want that. They want to reclaim it as their own with less than 500 million people. That's their goal. That's their agenda. So that's why you're seeing all these things around the world occurring. And communication will be attacked. The grid will be attacked. Internet will absolutely be attacked. What happens if your bank account, whatever has the balance reflected in it right now, what happens if the grid goes down, the internet goes down for weeks? Now, I know this doesn't sound plausible. It doesn't even sound remotely possible, Michael. All these businesses would lose so much money. Right. The same amount of money that can be recreated at any time by central bankers. Remember, they own it. Money is an illusion. All forms of it. Fiat and crypto. Its only worth and value is what's been indoctrinated in its users. Oh, but not crypto. Crypto is different. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. It's the same thing. But they're just doing it with hopes that it won't be in control of these elitists. And they have their hooks in it. They have their hooks in it to manipulate it, but they don't have full control of it yet. So, what happens if they say, all right, guys, this is the way it is. Any business caught taking transactions in cryptocurrency will have to pay $1 million fine for each transaction. You own a business? You going to risk that? You're not. Look at these people out there right now in the United States. They're telling people you can't come in here unless you're wearing a mask. You got to have the proof that you took the vaccine. And if you're a company owner and you have over 100 people in your place of business, You're telling them you got to get vaccinated. But they're not telling you that they're being paid by making sure that that's being done. Because that's what's happening. Just like hospitals were paid $40,000 to put people on ventilators in 2020. And they were blowing their lungs out because they didn't need to be on the ventilator. You get your clientele, if you're a doctor, get a certain number of people vaccinated, we'll give you tens of thousands of dollars. Doctors are highly motivated by drug companies. And in the pharmacy industry right now, big pharma, the banks own them. So where's the information really coming from? The globalists. The people that some of you just want to know so much about. No, you don't. You don't want to know about them. Just knowing they exist is enough. Oh, you're making them be a boogeyman. No. They are the worst thing you can imagine. And you think that all the things I'm teaching you here is going to make you immune to that? No. Because they can throw so many things into a tailspin, you won't be able to make a clear decision about anything. Anxiety, stress, starvation, isolation. That's what they do. They work you into submission. I'm not taking any of that crap into my body. I don't care if they seize all my bank accounts. I'm not taking it. My children are not part of a public school, so they can fall victim to, oh yeah, we thought you gave us consent. Once the shot is given, you got it. So now you have population turning on one another. Oh yes, the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. So the unvaccinated are being slowly but surely labeled domestic terrorists. Because they're already doing it with the parents of unvaccinated, or the people that are parents of children that don't agree with critical race theory. Oh, now we're going to talk about that stuff? Yeah, we're talking about all of it today. Because these are things that they're using to manipulate you and get you all twisted up with a team mentality. Critical race theory is wicked. It's nasty. It shouldn't even be talked about. And real American history, real world history, isn't even taught anymore. Which is the reason why I pulled my older kids out. Once I looked into what they were being taught, I have real history books. And you wouldn't see any of these books in a school anymore today. And they're in the process of, instead of book burning, they've just been slowly rewriting history. And folks around the world have been saying, oh, well, this Mandela effect. You ever hear about that? Google that once if you haven't already looked at it. These people believe they have witnessed some kind of supernatural changing of things. No. What you've witnessed is the rewriting of history. And because you're in the generation that's watching it transpire, you're questioning your own memory. That's all it is. And they've been doing it for really about 40 years. And social media sped up that whole thing because social media gives you the opportunity to feel like a superhero. You got a mutant power. You can go out there and force your opinion on other people and no real consequence happens. You might get your account deleted, but you can start another one. Not like saying it into somebody's face and getting your lip split or your eye blackened or worse. So we've created this whole arena in the United States. And they're indoctrinating people to think that the unclean, like myself, the plague, the lepers, I don't want to be in 99% of businesses for consuming food that I really don't trust being prepared. And even the nicer restaurants, that doesn't mean that the food was prepared well. That's the way I think. I've always thought that way. So isolation, introversion, that's been my whole life. I prefer that. So 2020 was no sweat for me. And when they say you can't go into a business because you don't have a vaccine, fine. I have lots of money. I can have somebody else go get me stuff. I don't need to go into your store. Simple. And if I don't have a way to get it, then I don't need it. There it is. Simple. Simple living, folks. Gone are the days for you to be pursuing extravagance. I have lots of money, and I am simplifying things, folks. I am simplifying it. And I mentioned this on my Telegram channel post, which I later removed this afternoon. That many of you think I'm sitting here all day long, Monday through Friday, making money trading. For the last 16 months, the majority of my day is making sure my family and my homes are well stocked. I'm managing deliveries. I'm scheduling things to be ordered and picked up because I know what's coming. And it ain't going to be easy. It ain't going to be fun. And as much as I can get right now to make sure that my family has things that they're going to need, then that's the only thing I can do. They could turn my bank accounts off. The internet could go down. Whatever. I have food. I have alternative power sources. And I don't need a light bulb to come on for me. I don't need my stoves to turn on. I have other ways to cook. And I'm not above going out and fishing for dinner. So, you got this whole pandemic unfolding, and I could lay out a clear tapestry of how all this stuff worked its way into this moment right now. And there'd still be a large portion of you saying, I don't believe it. Because it's uncomfortable to believe that that's how well scripted it is. It's uncomfortable to believe that everybody's in on it. Not everybody. I'm not in on it. People that think like me aren't in on it. But it's going to get to the point where people are going to be very, very angry at folks like me that say what I'm saying to you. And some of you probably like to turn the video off because you had your fill of it. And whatever. I'm not apologizing. I'm just telling you what's coming. And it's going to come real soon. People are slowly but surely doing the extremes. They're saying, to hell with you, I'm not working here. And they're quitting their jobs and careers they've worked at more than 10, 15, 20 years. Some of them saying, that's it, I'm done. Because they really hope that them quitting will be like, okay, yeah, we really didn't mean it. The people that are running the organizations and companies that are watching these people quit, think about it, folks. Last year, all the doctors and nurses, they were superheroes. Every hospital in my area had signs in front of it that said, superheroes work here. When I knew that the hospitals were nowhere near capacity, like they were saying, they were busting at the seams, we ran out of beds. Well, now they're not superheroes. They're outcasts. We have so much of a pandemic So many people are going into the hospitals that are unvaccinated, when the stats actually show it's the vaccinated that's in hospital and critical care. They are in such a pandemic, overwhelmed. They can't keep up with it in the ICU units, that they're firing thousands of doctors and nurses because they won't take the vaccine. The shot that saves everybody. What is it about these shots that these doctors and nurses have seen the effects of that says, you know what, buddy, it's worth leaving the job for? Think about that. If you were in an industry where you had first-hand, front-line knowledge, experience seeing these people coming in, yeah, I'm fully vaccinated, but look what's happening to me. My body isn't doing what it's supposed to do. I have heart trouble now. Did you see the news article about the family that took their kids and themselves to Walgreens? I think I'm saying it right, Walgreens. If not, it's something similar to it. But their 3 and 4-year-old child was given a flu shot in their expectations, going there to get a flu shot. And they got a phone call, said, hey, sorry, we actually gave your children adult doses of the COVID vaccine. Now both children have heart trouble. It's all for your health, folks. So it's so bad that they're firing doctors and nurses. Why would they even do that? Like, everything about this is wrong. Why is this such a hard sell for people to see it for what it really is? Why is it that our government is exempt from having it? They don't need to take it. No, we don't need to take it. Really? Well, that's all designed to piss people off. Critical hardline thinkers. I like to think of myself as something like that. I'm not saying I'm super smart. I'm just saying I am not quick to subscribe to things. And when I see BS, I'm going to take a step back and really spend time looking at what would be the motives, who stands to profit from it, and what the ramifications would be and consequences if I don't subscribe to that view. Think about what they're doing. They're punishing every possible way, slowly but surely tightening the noose. You won't be able to do anything unless you have this stuff in you. That doesn't make you better. You still are going to get it. And the majority of the people in the hospital are the ones that have taken it. And I don't give... almost lost control of my tongue. I don't care if you don't believe that. Okay? I have people that are in these places, nurses and doctors, and they're literally saying, this is not something I want in me. Right. So how many times do you need to see that, hear that, and see evidence to it, to subscribe to the idea that this probably isn't the best form of protection for me, because it doesn't offer any protection, none whatsoever. And they're doing everything they possibly can to make sure everybody takes it, when it has no benefit of doing whatever it is it's supposed to do. And they're panicking because they have to get it in everybody. In the military, you have any military folks in your family? Know anybody that's in the military? There's a whole lot of people in the military saying, the hell with you. See you later. You can keep my pension. I'm not interested. I'd rather be breathing and have a healthy body, and I can find another career. Because the military, they wouldn't be putting that in me. No thanks. And if you are somebody that is considered doing the flu shot every year, they're talking about jacking up the quote-unquote flu shot with the same stuff. And do you trust the people that administer that shot to you not to have given you the COVID shot? And if you're against it, you might look at it like a COVID shot. No. But the flu shot, yeah, I'll take that. No way. None of that stuff goes in any. None of it goes in me. And I just went through what would otherwise be seen as, you got the Rona. My Corona. The state of affairs is about to turn upside down, folks. They're creating the armies, the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. And the unvaxxed are the unclean. I'm ready to be called an outcast. I don't care who's subscribing to that view. I'm not asking for commitments on your part. I'm not asking you to join a team. I'm just telling you, that's my view, and nothing's changing it. And I don't care to be a part of their economic system they're trying to revamp. I don't give a shit about their social credit score. I don't care about what they want to do for green deals, because everything that they talk about, like windmills, you ever notice what they do with the windmill blades that are broken or faulty? You know, the material they use to make those windmills for energy, it doesn't break down. They just bury them in the ground. How's that a green idea? It's not. What about electric cars? Did you know that the lithium batteries in them, you can't do anything with them. You can't bury them because they're toxic. So what do you do? You can't recycle it. What do you do with it? They just sit out there in fields, just sitting. And that's the green idea. By 2030, no combustion engines. That's their plan. Like, at some point, folks, you're going to have to take a step back and say, hey, look, what is going on here? Because it's not freedom. It's not liberties that are blooming and blossoming everywhere. It's the opposite. But they're telling you, your freedoms are going to come back to you if you do what we tell you to do. Take this experimental mRNA into your body that's going to rewrite your DNA and make you something that you were not created to be. Hell no. Your freedoms are going to return to you if you do this. 14 days to slow the curve. It's just a mask. It's just 6 feet apart. It's just one dose. Second dose really helps you, and you'll be able to get back to normal with the second dose of the mRNA. You're going to need a booster shot of your mRNA. Don't you feel like you've been lied to yet? How about, have you seen anything from Project Veritas? Have you seen the Pfizer employees that came out and the things they've said? That's the kind of stuff that they don't want you talking about. All those things are problematic. We're going to have another lockdown in the United States. It's going to happen. Because they don't want militias forming. They don't want information forming where we get a large group of people standing together saying, we're not listening. How do you avoid that from happening? You cut communication. See, they're doing a soft cut right now with censorship. But at some point when they realize they're getting ready to do the heavy-handed stuff, they don't want certain states to see what other states are having done to them, like Australia. The atrocities that's going on down there. Folks, that's the plan for every country. To beat you into submission. In America, we have guns. So, how do they play chess with that? Martial law. You can't leave your neighborhood. You can't leave a 5 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, whatever it is. You can't leave that area. So they compartmentalize areas. Oh, but the military's quitting, Michael. Right. Not everyone, but most of them are saying, nah, I'm not subscribing to this. So who's going to take their position? The UN. United Nations, the blue helmets. But they won't be wearing blue helmets, folks. They're going to look like your run-of-the-mill Marine, National Guard, Army. And we're a melting pot here in the United States. You won't be able to look at them and say, that's a UN soldier. They're going to be wearing our fatigues, our uniforms. Because the psychological effect on that is, yeah, I love my military. I'm not going to go against them. I don't want to shoot at my military members. You see the psychological warfare there? So it keeps everybody in line, and they can still hold on to their guns. They're doing nothing with them. Because it's very intimidating to imagine a soldier with real military power, real assault rifles and weapons that have been trained to shoot you, versus I own a lot of guns and don't tread on me mentality. That's the lockdown that's coming. When we had the, for the life of me, I can't think of the gentleman's name that passed away. They did something in Baltimore City, and there was all kinds of ruckus raised about it. And they had the National Guard in the streets down there. And let me tell you something. Baltimore City can be really wild. Like, when they wild out, they wild out. They go nuts. And to be honest with you, there's certain areas in Baltimore City I never would want to go into in the daytime, let alone at night. And long story short, nobody went out in the streets and did anything when the National Guard was standing out there. When there was boots and fatigues and their rifles on their chests, none of those guys that would wild out were even on the streets. When the cops are out there, oh yeah, they're jumping on the cop cars, kicking their windows in. Yeah, because you know they have lines in the sand that they are not supposed to cross. But you don't know those lines when it's the military. And if you give them a threat, what recourse are you going to do when they draw down on you? You're going to comply or die. That's the next lockdown. I don't think it's going to be a medical lockdown like we saw in 2020. What they're trying to do is force you into that little compartmentalized area, and then they're going to come door to door and say, take a ride with us. Oh, Michael, this is ridiculous. Well, time will tell. I'm willing to be wrong about this. Okay? I hope I am. I want to be wrong. But everything in my being, every fiber in me says that this is what's being marched on the United States. Like, look what's going on in other countries. Over in France, they're rising up. Italy, they're rising up. I saw a thing, signs were being held up. Remember what happened to Mussolini? Like, that is very sobering when you think that, look, that's the state of mind that they're pushing, because that's exactly what they want here in the United States. That's how they get control of everything. To have a justification for at least half of the society to say, this is crazy. They'll beg for martial law. They'll beg for it. When there's so much violence, things breaking out all over the place, that's what they want. And I'm surprised, honestly, that it hasn't broken out yet. Fluoride's amazing. It has really dumbed down everybody in the United States. We are not a fluoridated family. We've done a lot to take things out of the water, reverse osmosis, then distilled. Yes, it's a lot of work, but my pineal gland is not clogged up like the majority of Americans. But there is a large group of Americans that are simply not going to take any of this crap. They're not going to put it in their body, and they don't care. And some of the good old boys, they're used to hitting the mountains and living off the land. They don't care. What are you going to do with them? Right. But over the years, people have grown accustomed to high-tech living. And high-tech living has convinced the majority of people that civilizations are going to crumble if the internet goes down for an hour. When Instagram and Facebook go down, you got to see these people. They melt. They lose their minds. What am I going to do? Facebook is down. And they're trying to get on. They're texting their friends, hey, can you get on Instagram? Can you get on Facebook? It's like life support for them. They get their sustenance from this. When really all it is they need dopamine. And that's what social media has done. Made dopamine addicts out of everyone. And I was wrapped up in that on Twitter. I was getting a rise out of trolling people. And then when I realized that, I'm like, And then he started censoring me. Okay, it's time to go. And when I stopped that, done, man. It was a night and day difference. When you're away from it for about a month, you look back and say, man, that was a terrible thing to be doing all the time. And I felt addicted to it. I wanted to see the reactions of other people. And they have people jacked up on social media. What do you think is going to happen when social media goes down, the internet goes down, and people are forced to have to not know anything except for what's happening right there in front of them? It's going to make them irritable. It's going to make them paranoid, angry. Where's all that going to be channeled into? What's the perfect outlet to channel that if you're vaccinated? The lepers. The people that caused all this in the beginning. Why didn't you just take this shot? You're just afraid of a little old needle. You're not American. You're endangering everybody by not taking the stuff that doesn't protect the people that it's supposed to protect. Like, it's madness. It is absolute madness that we're even talking about these types of things. But that's what's going to happen here in the United States. That's the easiest thing to go to. That's the low-hanging fruit approach. Now, obviously, they could do something that I don't see coming, but the end result still is martial law. And there won't be any elections if martial law is instituted. So they don't have to worry about doing any kind of fraud. They don't have to worry about manufacturing votes and ballots and changing lines of code and all those types of things. Think about it, folks. That's why they're letting everybody flood the country. Just whoever wants to come on in, come on in. Because the United States isn't meant to be the United States anymore. So you need to stop thinking 2024, Trump's going to come back. Trump's already done his role. That's it. And he's going to get out there and fan the flames. Let's save America. Okay. Who still drinks the Trump Kool-Aid? Who's the ones that's going to be the problems? That way we can get a number. All that is an IQ census. That way you can say, okay, I'm going to be the person that is easiest to be labeled a domestic terrorist. That's it. And he won't get the office in 2024. but they'll know everything they need to know leading to that year. So I'm surprised you're still with me here. It's a long video. But these are all the things I was thinking about all weekend. I'm thinking to myself, like, this is unsustainable. Like, this whole business of, you can't go in here, you can't do this, you can't have your employees unvaccinated. And when you take a step back and say, okay, Joe Biden, this unbelievable goober that has his son selling artwork, like, think about it. His son's like Bill Gates. He's in everything. Hunter Biden, he's in an energy company in China. Never been schooled in it. Never has any resources that we can pull up and say, okay, yeah, he's he's equipped to be doing something like that. Now he's an artist, so he's Bob Ross, okay, and he's painting all these pictures, selling them at ridiculous amounts of money, and nobody sees that as a way of saying, okay, look, you pay to play. You want preferential treatment? Buy some artwork. Just like Obama. Get some textbooks made, and then we'll do a book deal, and then we'll pay you back through that. It's all laundering. And it's right in front of your face. It's right in front of your face. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Why? Because they know they have enough control right now. Even if the half of the country, if it's even that anymore, that would say, you know what? I don't believe what's going on in America is the right path. We need to make a sudden, hard change in direction. Like, I don't think that they care at this point because they have so many controls in place. Your ability to be able to feed your family and yourself, that's what they're actively working towards implementing. That's why farmers are being told, hey, look, you're not going to be able to get the rights to be able to have your irrigation for your crops. And they're paying farmers. I was watching a YouTuber come out and say, yeah, there's a lies going around, government's coming out trying to pay people, farmers to turn their crops in the ground. They're paying them to destroy their crops. That's not true. That's not happening. Look, that's disinformation, folks. Like, think about it. Like, anything else that comes out on the news, that's how it always is. It's like these guys on the Weather Channel. They're bending over, they're leaning into the wind, holding their hood down, like it's way stronger of a wind. And then all of a sudden, there's people in the background walking by with shorts on, and they're just looking at the camera like, what's this guy carrying on for? Like, the gig's up. I mean, people were hip to it now. But the globalists don't care because they know they have done a large impact with this vaccination stuff. They've gained so much ground, they're not going to relinquish it. Not without blood. And that's what has to happen now. Because everything that's been implemented right now is not fixed with politics, votes, and elections. And that should scare the hell out of you. Because everybody is part of it. Every company, they're owned by them. They put their own people in these positions of power. Yeah, you might go to work for these people and you might think, I'm not like that, Michael. I work for that company. I don't subscribe to those views. Right. You're just a small little cog that could easily be cast away, just like all those nurses and doctors. They're just cogs, little pieces. When they take doctors and nurses from Puerto Rico and bring them right on in, plug them in, and pay them less money, they're not doing without a doctor and a nurse. And how do you know they didn't go to Johns Hopkins? You don't. That's what's going on. And I don't want you to believe anything I'm saying. I don't want you to believe it because you think I'm a nice person or I've had some things right in the past, so, whatever ICT says, I trust that. Don't. Do not take my word for it. Dig around. Do like my grandma used to say, root around. What are you rooting around? What are you rooting around in there for, boy? I was looking for cookies when I was a kid. Thought that she was trying to hide them. When I ended up finding was Christmas presents unwrapped yet. They haven't been wrapped yet. What are you in there rooting around for in the cupboards? Root around, as my Virginian grandmother would say. And you'll see that the hospitals that are firing nurses and doctors are already hiring and outsourcing outside of our country. Really? So, folks can come here from other countries, not civilians, and just open up shop and just be resident doctors and nurses. And the hospitals keep making money, and they're not understaffed. And they're not losing money in the process because they're getting paid by the globalists to do these things. That's what you don't know. But you later find out by rooting around. That's what's going on. That's why they don't fear any of this. The hospital doesn't really care about you. They want to keep you in the bed long enough to maximize the bill. And once they hit that threshold of they can't make a higher bill for you and your insurance company, they want you out of that bed as fast as possible so they can get the next customer in. It's sick. So when people go to hospitals and need an organ transplant, and they're of the mindset that I have, that I'm not convinced that this shot is the best thing for me in my health, but they're on a waiting list and their time has come for them to potentially have that surgery, and they go in and they ask them, did you receive your COVID shot? No, sir, or no, madam, I did not do that. Oh, well, we don't want to do that. We can't do the surgery for you anymore because your risk of dying because of COVID is so elevated, it's not worth giving you the organ. You're disqualified. Think about that. Do you remember the movie John Q with Denzel Washington? If you ever watched that, go watch it. It's really a good movie. That's predictive programming. You can't do a surgery. You can't do this. You can't do that. Save somebody's life. They want people emotionally charged. Have somebody on their last leg and they need to have an organ transplant, or they know their time here is numbered. You don't think there's people going to be out there in the streets wanting to pull a Yosemite Sam, shooting everybody up because they lost all hope? They're doing everything they can to piss people off. They're doing everything. And at some point, real soon, the obvious is going to smack everybody in the face. And the tide's going to turn. And it's going to be violence everywhere. Martial law breaks out in every state. That's when real depression will kick in. Real anxiety. Because you're going to be living in a police state. COVID camps are already coming online. Don't take my word for it. They're hiring for staff on it. Don't take my word for it. I'll give you a clue. Look in some northwest states in the United States. You think people are going to go there voluntarily? I'm not. So, if you have not prepared your home and bought food, lots of it, stuff that goes in the cans, that kind of thing, or rice in a bag, you boil up water and there you go. Beans, things like that, main staple foods. We're not talking about feel-good foods. We're talking about I'm not starving to death foods. They're not expensive. Everything's more expensive. They're not a lot of money. And I'm sure some of you still have streaming services for things that cost you money. If you didn't spend it there or at the fast food joints that you go and eat at and use that money to go buy some canned good foods, it doesn't take long to mount up a sizable supply and just keep packing it to the rafters. You want to be able to endure what's coming. And I don't enjoy talking like this. I don't feel good about it. I'm not getting a high out of it, like this is a Mad Max scenario, and this is awesome. We could talk about the apocalyptic times and like I'm in a movie or something. I'm not getting my rocks off by talking to you about this stuff. It's depressing. Because if it's gotten this far, this fast, imagine what it's going to be 12 months from right now. And how, if you don't take care of your home and prepare it, how much more regret are you going to feel because now you know. That's what I've been doing. And I have not hid it from you. So, I'm sure I'll be mentioning it again in the coming months. But seriously, folks, get yourself squared away. And that's the best you can do. I'm going to show you the homework assignment. British pound versus Japanese yen. I got a couple emails pushed to me by my staff saying, hey, could you talk about yen pairs? So here we have the pound yen. This is your homework assignment. Frame up the reasons why this low to this high took place. And we'll cover that tomorrow on Tuesday's review and commentary. Until then, be safe.